Genesis 41. Joseph and Pharaoh's dream. 2 long years passed. Joseph was still in prison waiting. He didn't know what God was planning, but he trusted him. Then one night in the royal palace, Pharaoh, the king of Egypt, had a strange and powerful dream. In his dream, Pharaoh was standing by the river. He saw 7 fat, healthy cows coming out of the water. They munched happily on the grass. But then 7 thin, bony cows came out of the river too. They looked terrible and weak. Suddenly, the thin cows gobbled up the fat cows. But they still looked thin and hungry. Pharaoh woke up with a start. He went back to sleep and had another dream. This time, he saw 7 heads of grain growing on one stalk. They were full and healthy. Then 7 thin and dried up heads grew up beside them and swaddled the good ones. Pharaoh sat up in bed. His heart was racing. In the morning, he called for his magicians and wise men to explain his dreams, but no one could tell him what they meant. That's when the cupbearer, the very same man who had been in prison with Joseph, suddenly remembered. He rushed to Pharaoh and said, "My king, I remember my time in prison. There was a young Hebrew man there who could explain dreams. Everything he said came true." Pharaoh sent for Joseph at once. Guards hurried into the prison, helped Joseph get cleaned up, gave him new clothes, and brought him before Pharaoh. Pharaoh looked at Joseph and said, "I had a dream, but no one could explain it. I heard you can understand dreams." Joseph stood tall and answered, "I can't, but God can. He will give Pharaoh the answer." Then Pharaoh told Joseph both dreams. Joseph listened carefully. When Pharaoh finished, Joseph spoke clearly and calmly. He said the 2 dreams meant the same thing. Egypt would have 7 years of plenty when the fields would grow full and healthy food. After that, there would be 7 years of famine when nothing would grow and people would go hungry. Joseph explained that Pharaoh should choose someone wise to collect food during the good years so that Egypt would be ready when the famine came. Pharaoh was amazed. He looked at his officials and said, "Who else has the Spirit of God like this man?" He turned to Joseph and said, "You will be in charge. Only I will be greater than you." Just like that, Joseph was no longer a prisoner. Pharaoh gave him fine clothes, a gold chain, and a royal ring. He rode in a chariot, and people bowed before him. Joseph became the 2nd most powerful man in all of Egypt. Joseph worked hard during the 7 good years. He collected grain and stored it in big barns. When the 7 bad years came, people from every land came to Egypt to buy food. Joseph, the boy who had once been thrown into a pit, was now saving lives. God had been with him the whole time, even when it looked like everything was going wrong. His plan was finally unfolding. Lesson for kids. God's timing is always perfect. Joseph waited for years without knowing the future, but God never forgot him. When the right time came, everything changed in one day. God can turn hard seasons into blessings, and He can use anyone, even someone who once felt forgotten. The end.